Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Jonathan Heilman. Um, my content area that I will teach is English. I am going for my single subject credential for ELA or for English. Why did I choose that area of education? Well, growing up, I always loved reading. I love reading like fantasy novels. I was really big into that, and I think like books like Harry Potter and things like that really got me into reading. I'm just a big reader. My family used to, my great aunt, she used to give me a book every year. She was a librarian. She used to give me a book every year for my birthday. And I just always really loved it. My parents let me stay up late if I was reading. So there was a lot of nights where I stayed up a little bit later because I loved the books I was reading. So I loved that. And then when I got to high school and college, I loved reading like poetry and reading like Shakespeare and all of the great lits. So it was always really fun. I always loved like reading that type of English and learning new words and the art of it. So I love ELA. Let's see. Also, I have a passion for art as well. Just music, like lyrics, poetry. I love all of it. So it all kind of like comes together in ELA. So I'm a big fan of that. What do I think responsibility is in relation to reading instruction, given my content area? Well, in my current job, I'm a reading intervention teacher. So my students are in my class and ELA. So I'm like their reading support teacher. But it's not only students with IEPs. It's a blended learning environment. So there's a lot of students there's like probably some of my classes have like 4 or 5 students with IEPs, and the rest are just a little bit behind in their reading. They're mostly, or not mostly, but a lot of them are reclassified ELs, English language learners. So a lot of them are totally functional in terms of like having conversations. They can speak fluently, but with the reading, with some of the like vowel sounds, um, like sounding out digraphs and trigraphs and things like that, they don't have the fluency required to really succeed in their ELA class. So they're in my class because they need to learn the literacy fluency in order to be able to comprehend the text they're reading. So that's our goal. It's the first half is phonics, and then the second half of my course in term 2, which is in the spring and towards the summer, is going to be more enrichment. So I think responsibility is really making sure students don't fall through the cracks. For me, I have some students who just suffer in silence. Like I'm sure with a lot of you teachers out there, you have your students who are more vocal with things that they're struggling with or behaviorally more vocal, so they take up a lot of attention. But then there's students who don't cause really any like disturbances or anything like that, and don't really like interrupt the classroom environment, but like are reading at levels, or maybe not for everybody, but they're not succeeding at the level that they need to be, but it's going unnoticed because there are other students who require that more immediate attention because they disrupt the classroom environment to such a degree. So I think responsibility for me is ensuring that I'm not letting those students slip through the cracks, because some of them are already in 8th grade still reading at like kindergarten levels or reading at 3rd grade levels. So even though they're not causing any disruptions, I one part of like maintaining my teacher integrity is making sure that those students don't fall through the cracks. So that's responsibility in relation to reading instruction, in my opinion, is making sure everybody succeeds. What am I hoping to learn in this course? I'm hoping to learn how to build engagement and also vary my instruction. So some teachers are just so fluent. Like I've been kind of amazed when I'll have an idea for a lesson, like they need to practice this. What should I do? And then be like, oh, well, like first do this. First you'll have them like look at some slides and some things. Then like do a turn and talk, and then they're going to work on this activity, and then you have this, and like just all these different ways where students are going to be engaging with the material in so many different ways. So like differentiating content like just naturally and in the moment without having to think too much about it is something that I'm really hoping to learn. That like differentiation fluency right here is something that I'm hoping to learn. What memories do I have of reading in middle school and high school years? Well, one big memory I have is remembering how big of a difference like a teacher can make, like a passionate teacher, and maybe even compassionate. I don't have too many memories necessarily of specifics of this one course, but when I was in 7th and 8th grade, I had the same ELA teacher 2 years in a row. So I had her for 7th grade, and then in 8th grade, I remember I don't remember specifically, but I had heard that she was having a rough go of things, and then she had to quit her job. And when I had her as a teacher, I remember really not liking English, and I had a D in her class, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, like I'm not good at this at all. And then I had a teacher after who replaced her, who was the wife of one of the other teachers, the math teacher for eighth graders. And Mrs. Mortensen was her name, and she was super sweet. We read like To Kill a Mockingbird and The Turn of the Screw and a bunch of really good books. And I loved the discussions we had. I just loved like talking about the books, and the stories that we read were just great stories. And I remember just like how much better or how much more I enjoyed being in the class. And I ended up getting a B plus in that class. And I remember going into high school, I started taking honors English at that point. I think it was that at that point, either that level or the next year, where I really started to take English more seriously. When we read Shakespeare ninth grade, I really, really became a big fan. I loved reading Shakespeare in high school and college. So then that's when I started taking honors English classes and taking even double English classes. I took like another course that was similar to English, where we read like philosophy, which was in high school, which was cool. So those were kind of the memories. Like that, my like whole life trajectory might be different if I didn't have that teacher. Um, yeah, so that was pretty amazing. And then, how do I think reading in middle and high school might be different now from when you were in school? I think maybe now it's possible that I know that like not, we're telling our eighth graders that in ninth grade they will be reading Romeo and Juliet, but I wouldn't be surprised if some of the curriculum has evolved where there's more different stories being um, read, like not necessarily the same books. Like, oh, you're going to read um, Macbeth and you're going to read Romeo and Juliet, and that's it. But like stories from other authors, more recent authors, maybe not necessarily just authors from like hundreds of years ago, but like more recent authors and more diverse stories. So I think reading in middle and high school might be different in that way, where you see more communities represented in the literature. So I think that's one big way that it's different. And I think what I've seen of enrichment and the middle school level from my school, I'd say that they're, I guess it's not technically their ELA class, but the stuff that they're practicing seems like a lot different than the stuff that I learned as a kid. Like my coworker, he's doing speeches in one of their classes. They're having to write their speeches, so it's really good practice for like writing and forming an argument, collecting textual evidence, supporting your argument, your claim, but like actually having debates and speeches. So I think that's one big way that it's much more different. And I think just maybe the environment I grew up in. I This was a very different environment that I work in to the environment that I grew up in, where I didn't know before I started this program that there were students really like struggling so much with English and like reading like so far below grade level. So I think it's really opened my eyes to the struggles of like different communities, especially like communities who English is their second language, and the things that they what their reality is, and the level of like work needed, and just kind of the different struggles there. So that's something that I think is very different with the middle school I went to